Hello and welcome back. I'm Marine for TCG. We're here in Tokyo. Got the final four of the Tokyo CS kicking off real soon. And as we look at what decks have made it to the finals, we have two Belo Betty still in it, one green-yellow Law, and the Lone Warrior, the one blue-purple Luffy, making his way all the way to the top four against the tide of aggro set out to stop him. Seeing two Betty out of the top four means that it's very likely we're going to see Betty at least make finals. Would be pretty interesting to see some Betty take on Blue-Purple Luffy. So getting some more experience of Belo Betty versus Blue-Purple Luffy would be pretty interesting to see. I'm particularly interested to see if that matchup is as polarized for Betty as people say. And it looks like the players are getting ready, and here we do see the first player is playing Belo Betty. So we'll see, is the Belo Betty going to be taking on Law? Are they going to be taking on the Luffy? Or are they going to be taking on the dreaded Belo Betty mirror? All three of those matchups should be pretty explosive. Law versus Belo Betty seems like it would be a particularly interesting one, with Belo Betty aiming to kill you as fast as possible, but Law liking to take his own life to proc his effects. That should be an interesting bit of a conundrum. Having that 8-cost kid obviously pretty useful for Law into Betty, if this is indeed Law that this player is playing against. And I think that means this is a Belo Betty mirror. The card on screen did not change, so it looks likely that we're going to see Belo Betty guaranteed in finals in the Tokyo CS. What a time to be alive. This matchup should be incredibly fast. Both of these players swinging for massive numbers, very few cards in hand, not too many blockers between the two of them. This will be an exciting game, I think. Some key cards. The Karasu might be quite key to make it even easier for you to get lethal in the mirror. Some other characters, the 4-cost Ivankov is always very, very important. That 4-cost Ivankov being able to cheat out another dude is crazy value. Lindbergh, if it sticks and is able to remove something, that could be nuts. Koala combines with Lindbergh really, really well to get some removal on the board on stood up characters, which whilst Betty is not a removal deck, if you can remove something for free, that's pretty cool. And we do see the hand from one player. Got two of the stage. Got a Karasu, Koala, and the 5-cost Ivankov. Now, if this player's going first, the curve of stage into, well, not a lot on 3, but having that Ivankov for the 5-don turn could be very impactful. Also got that Karasu for when he goes for lethal. You can drop that, debuff the leader by 1,000, effectively the same as giving your characters 1,000 power across the board, which is pretty crazy. And if it sticks, obviously you can then do that when attacking. And this player has an interesting hand. We've got the stage again, a Belo Betty Searcher, a Raise Max that's able to give minus 3,000 debuff to something, a Kuma that can carry a 2k, and that interesting Koala blocker from set 9. Looks like the player on the right, the player with the Ivankov in hand, is going to be going first. That should be a pretty reasonable hand for the Belo Betty's less favoured first curve. But these players are ready to go. Let's get going. Good luck to both players, and here we go. And we do see the player on the right starting off with that stage as anticipated. Gonna tap it, discard the other stage. You never need more than one stage. Not in a Belo Betty deck. And then we'll take a look for any Revolutionary Army character. We do see that Belo Betty Searcher that can search the top 5. And 2 copies of Koala. Looks like we're opting for the Belo Betty Searcher. That'll be a pretty nice play on that 3-don turn. Getting a body established that you can buff with your leader effect to 5k. Even those little searchers have got some power. And the player on the left, we do see the stage come down. We see the ditch on the Koala. And looks like we see a Lindbergh, a Koala, or I think it was a Kuma. And we do opt for the Lindbergh. Lindbergh's, when attacking, able to KO a 3,000 power character. Could be pretty useful. And we do see the Belo Betty Searcher come down for the player on the left. Looks like we're opting for that Koala. 3k debuff on play. It's like a souped up Otama. Crazy card. If that wasn't locked to Rev Army, you'd see that all over the place. But in this matchup, combining with cards like Kuma and Lindbergh, crazy value. And we do see 5 into 5. Do we see the first trigger of the game? No, we do not. No trigger there. Looks like that was just a Zeus. Zeus, that new card from the new set. able to take a life and KO a 5. Very powerful. And then we do see the Belo Betty Searcher come down. We see the 4-cost Ivankov. That's a really powerful card. Looks like there's a Karasu with Belo Betty Searcher, another Stage, and a 6-cost Koala. Opting for that Ivankov. That Ivankov, when he's got 7,000 power or more, able to play out any 5,000 power Revolutionary Army character, which is the vast majority of our deck, and able to be buffed to 7,000 by one simple use of our leader effect. As soon as next turn, he can be dropping that Ivankov, and then use the Ivankov to drop something else. We do see the Stage getting used, ditching the 5-cost Ivankov, and that's usually a pretty good play on 5, so interesting that he would get rid of that. And then we do see the grab of the Kuma, and then the Kuma able to KO that 2,000 power Belo Betty Searcher to keep the board nice and clear for the player on the right. Player on the left, beginning their turn, drawing another Zeus. Zeus, a good card. However, at the cost of a life, it comes at a steep cost. And then cannot be buffed by your Belo Betty's leader effect. Only buffs Revolutionary Army and trigger characters. So, we do see 5 to the player on the right. He's also getting a Zeus off the life. No crazy triggers yet. Belo Betty, known for her triggers. But we've not seen any hit the board just yet. We do see the Stage come down, ditching the Raise Max. Looks like we're eyeing up a Karasu, a Kuma 2k, and another one of those Koala 2ks. Would not be surprised to see the grab on any of these cards here. All 3 really powerful cards. Perhaps not the Kuma, because the Koala is also at 2k and has a strong effect on play. The Kuma's more in there to be a bit of a trigger body when you get it off a life. Looks like we're going for that Koala. The player on the left, does he have a Lindbergh? He does have a Lindbergh. So if this Lindbergh survives, that Koala is going to pop off any character the player on the right plays with the combo of the Koala and the Lindberghs when attacking is going to be KO'd. So the player on the right needs to deeply consider whether or not he wants to play Zeus this turn. Zeus will be able to take out that Lindbergh to deny his when attacking, but comes at the cost of a life. And we do see the pitch on the 4-cost Ivankov off the stage. Getting a Stage, an Inazuma, and a Koala. Choosing the Inazuma. Inazuma, when one of your other characters has 7,000 power or more, he gains Rush. Pretty nice. Can be tricky to get going if you don't have another 4-cost or higher character on the board, though. Because these little weenies, whilst you can buff them to 5 to attack in, you don't love buffing them to 7 with Dons. And we do see the Zeus taking the life, get rid of the Lindbergh, deciding that keeping the board clear is the most important thing. More important than preserving our life. And it looks like we did see a Lindbergh grab off the life. Lindbergh of his own for the player on the right. And we may well see the leader effect come out, buffing those 2 weenies, the Belo Betty and the Kuma, up to 5k. Swing 555. And then maybe deploy that Inazuma to keep him for next turn. Whilst Inazuma himself would become 7k if you buffed him. Because none of these other characters would be. He doesn't gain Rush, so it doesn't make sense to play him first. And we do see that buff ditching the Koala, buffing up those 2 characters. Belo Betty going to swing in for 5 on 5. Player on the left's got a tough arse key. He's about to have 3 5s at his face. And Belo Betty is not known for wanting to defend anything. We do see the pitch on the blocker Karasu. He's just a trigger blocker. We also see the pitch on the Zeus to defend the Kumas 5 on 5. And the Betty 5 on 5 is a take, and we're going to see a Kuma trigger. Kuma on play, KO a 2,000 power character. Able to remove that Zeus from the board. And just look at that, like that. We've gone from 3 versus 0 characters to 2 versus 1. What a change a trigger can make, right? And on the next turn, that Belo Betty player on the left is going to be able to use his leader and the Kuma to potentially take out those 2 remaining tapped characters. That Inazuma does come down towards the end of the turn, and we do see the pass over to the player on the left. He's entering his 6th on turn. Draws what looks like a Karasu. Does have the combo of the Koala and the Kuma separated over on the left of his hand. That could be used to take out this Inazuma, which could be okay. We're going to go with the Stage first, ditching Karasu. Looks like we've got a couple of Inazumas there and a 6-cost Koala. 6-cost Koala, really nice blocker. Lets you play a guy, take a life, and then draw a card. Crazy stuff. Really good for flooding your board. But it does look like we're prioritizing the Inazuma. We're in the latter stages of this game already, believe it or not. And the rush from that Inazuma could come in clutch, you never know. Wonder what we'll see this player choose to use his 6 Don here for. If he wants to use the combination of the Koala and the Kuma, it does mean that he can't, for example, play Inazuma as well. And if he plays Inazuma, well, then you can't use the Koala-Kuma combo to get rid of that Inazuma on the player on the right side. I think very likely we'll see the removal of the 2 little weenies on the right by this Kuma and leader. What the rest of his turn holds, though, is a mystery. I'm excited to see. That Zeus, not looking too hot, but you could play it out, remove the Inazuma straight away, and then go down to 1. And then you could afford to play a 3 or 4 cost character as well. We do see 5 into what I assume is the Bartholomew Kuma, and that will go through. Then we're going to see 2 for Koala, reducing... Okay, Koala reduces the Belo Betty, and then the Kuma takes it out. You see another Koala. Okay, Koala reduced the Belo Betty, take it out with the Kuma, with attacking. And Koala reduced the Inazuma. And that Kuma's on play, KOing that 1000 power Inazuma. Keep the board clear. And now it's 4 versus 0 in terms of characters. What a turn of events. However, that was very costly in terms of cards. 3 cards out of the play on the left hand, only 2 remaining. Player on the right got his back against the wall a bit, but does have access to that 6 cost Koala. That 6 cost Koala can play something like a Karasu blocker. And if you can find one of those off the stage, that could be pretty cool. Establish double blockers. Make it really hard for the player on the left to go for game. We do also have access to Zeus for the player on the right if he wants to remove one of the characters from the player on the left. That could be pretty good, but again, pushing yourself down to 1 life, it's really risky. If you don't establish those blockers, I think it's just too risky to go down to 1. And we don't see that much else. The 4 cost Ivankov, whilst very powerful, not really going to help here. I think it really does come down to that Koala and whether or not that Koala is able to play out a second blocker. It's 2 blockers. He's got to be feeling decently good, especially with a hand like that. He's got good amount of counter in that hand. 2k in the Zeus. 2 1ks in the Ivankov and the Karasu. And I believe that's still a Lindbergh, right? That last 1k. With all the characters on the left being so weak, even with the leader's effect, they're going to struggle to swing for much more than 6. Maybe 7. But with blockers and lives to spare, this is not over for the player on the right. Far from it. They're actually in a pretty decent spot, I'd say. He's working his turn out. I imagine we will see that stage come down before anything else. Just so that he has maximum options off of his Koala. Something like the Ivankov or the Lindbergh. I think most likely to be ditched. Looks like we're eyeing up 6 with the leader. 6 where, though? Do you go a bit of aggro at face now? That could be a pretty interesting turn for the books. Because that last Kuma, because the leader effect can only buff 3 characters, that last Kuma sitting at 2000 power, really not intimidating. Going to require at least 3 Don to be able to swing for 5. And the player on the left is only going to have 8. So that's a little bit tricky. And I think we do see 6 at life, because you would not be debating 6 into 2 for this long. Debating whether or not he counters with his Zeus or gambles looking for a trigger. A trigger character here would absolutely turn this battle on its head once again. So explosive, these Belo Betty games. It's crazy. Both these players, so few cards. Characters getting buffed to crazy values, even for such weak units like Koala and Kuma. It's really cool to see. And we are seeing the player on the left debating their options. Carefully considering whether or not he wants to go down to 1. If he does go down to 1, risks getting killed pretty quickly on the next turn. If he is not able to grab lethal. But like I say, if this is a trigger, this could be everything. No trigger, it's just another Koala. That's crazy. We've seen like a million Koalas in this matchup. And we do see that 6 cost Koala come down, taking the life. It's a Karasu blocker. The Koala is going to be able to play out that Karasu, establish double blockers, draw a card, keep the player on the right, Joe, going. And it looks like that is going to be exactly what takes place. Drawing a card, draws another 2k. That's going to be really helpful. Uses the stage. I'm very surprised he didn't use that before, but here we are. What a time to be alive. We do see the pitch on the Lindbergh. There's another Karasu there, but does opt for just one more 2k. That's 3 2ks in hand now for Joe on the right. Pretty crazy. Going to be really tricky for the player on the left to get lethal with that much counter and double blockers, but he is going to give it his best shot. 8 Don for the player on the left. Draws for turn a Revolutionary Army stage. And then the leader does restand. Thank you, judges. So first things first, let's tap our stage. Get rid of the excess stage. You never need that. Looks like we've got a Lindbergh, a Karasu, and an Ivankov. No blockers. So we are realistically forced to go for lethal this turn now as a result. Because we're not going to be able to defend the crazy amounts of damage that's going to come out from even one of those characters on the right. You can never really remove the Koala. It's too big for Belo Betty decks to deal with. Unless you have another Kuma. Unless you have another Koala and a Lindbergh already established. But that's certainly not the case. We did see the grab, I believe, on the Karasu. Yep, we grabbed the Karasu. But are we going to use it? We could use the Zeus to destroy the Karasu blocker. With just 2 Don. However, then you're at 0 life and you're really all in. If he can force him down to 0 and force him to use both blockers, there's a chance he could survive. But still, it's going to be pretty tough. Eyeing up his options, 8 Don available, 5 cards in hand, 1 life, 2 blockers for Joe on the right. Really tough lethal here. I'm pretty sure there's no guaranteed math lethal. He's got to hope that Joe's got some bricks, but we know too much. There's very few bricks in that hand. And we are going to see the player on the left debating their options, coming to a conclusion real soon here. I think there's sort of 2 routes of play you can make. You can play the Zeus to remove the blocker, or you can just use all the Dons to swing and commit with swinging with that extra Ivankov. That extra Kuma, the second 2k Kuma. Because your leader effect, very likely to buff the Koala, and the Kuma. Then they'll all be at 5, 6, and 6k respectively. Your leader's at 5, you've got 8 Don remaining. You could do something like 7, 7, 7, 7, and then you've got 2 Don left for that Zeus. Could be pretty reasonable. Or if you don't want to play the Zeus, you're swinging something like 5, 6, 7, 7, 7. But the player on the right has another blocker. Which means that I think if you are forced to go for lethal, as this player kind of is here, I think going with the Zeus is the smartest move. You get the guaranteed removal, and 7s across the board is pretty good. You could also start with something like a 6 to test for 2ks, but if that then doesn't go through, you're in a tough spot. We are going to see this player making up their mind real soon here, I hope. I'm running out of things to say. Belo Betty. There's not that many lines with it. It's a deck that's sort of balls to the wall. How much aggro have you got? I've got a lot. It's been pretty exciting to see how much control and removal we've seen in this matchup, though. Those Kumas absolutely working overtime for both players. And we do see the Zeus grabbing the final life, removing the Karasu blocker. We're locked in. We're going for lethal. Let's see if we get there. And we are going to see the pitch on the Karasu buffing the 2 Koalas and 1 of the Kumas, bringing those up to 6, 6, and 5. And we see a start with 7k from Koala. And the player on the right is going to counter that one. It looks like he's got 2ks in spades, can very much afford to do this. And we do so see Joe countering with that Ivankov that I thought he'd play so long ago. And the 2k Kuma. We do see a 7 once again from Koala. Going to potentially opt to take this one to lock the player on the left into their game. And we do indeed see the take. 7k with the Kuma. And we do see the pitch on the Koala and the Karasu. 7 with lead. Even got the block too. Doesn't even need to ditch the Koala. And then that's going to be the game. Joe's just got to go for his lethal. This was a really explosive game, right? 15 minutes for this final game. And quite a lot of that was on really this turn and the last turn. Belo Betty taking down the game on her 9 Don turn. What a time to be alive. And we do see the counter to the 8. And then no counter for the large swing with the Koala. Congratulations to Joe, the Belo Betty player. And commiserations to the other Belo Betty player. We'll be seeing Belo Betty in finals. What a time to be alive. I've been Marine for TCG. We'll be back with the finals before you know it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.